Uh, Hi everyone. I see it's already 3 o'clock, so let's start. My name is Julius. I'm the founder and CEO of Cloudwiser that is hosting today's webinar. So hi everyone, and thank you very much for joining. We also have Kenz here from LogicMonitor, who will be delivering the presentation. Kenz, you want to say hi to the audience?
Hi everyone, I'm Kenz. As Julius said, I'm from LogicMonitor and will be delivering part of the presentation. We have Chris joining shortly, who is definitely the technical genius out of us two, and we'll be delivering part of the demo.
Great. I'm very happy to have Kenz, Chris, and all of you joining here today to this event, and I hope you'll find it interesting and useful. Before we begin, just let me say a few words about Cloudwiser and what we do for those who haven't heard of us before. So Cloudwiser is an advanced tier AWS partner operating in the Baltics and Nordics as well. We work closely with AWS to support companies that are currently using AWS or plan to do that in the near future. And our main business line is AWS resell that is being used by a number of companies in the Baltics. So if your company is currently using AWS, I strongly suggest you check out the benefit packages that we offer as a bonus for your AWS spend. And next to that, we try to do a lot of things to build the local AWS community, and this webinar is a good illustration of that. The main object and objective of this webinar, for sure, is the LogicMonitor and the spectacular solutions that they have. Yet we also want to put some focus on the way you can start using those solutions in your AWS account. And the easiest and fastest way to do that is clearly AWS Marketplace. Those who are not too familiar with AWS Marketplace need to know that this is a curated digital catalog with thousands of software listings from independent software vendors, ISVs, just like LogicMonitor. And it allows AWS users to easily find, test, buy, and of course deploy solutions that are essential for cloud transformation. And they can also easily enrich the AWS services that they are currently using as well. As you see from the numbers in the slide, it's already very popular among AWS customers and is growing extremely fast. And we really see that AWS is pushing this channel from their side as well. So this should only get bigger and better along the time. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of vendors that are offering their solutions on AWS Marketplace, basically covering all the categories you can think of. Security is definitely one of the biggest areas there, but you can even order things like that are not even running on AWS, like a Cloud Guru online training or access to third-party tools and platforms and similar stuff, and all from one interface. One may ask, why should I buy this through AWS Marketplace instead of the old usual way of doing that directly? Well, there are clear advantages of the engineering for the engineering and development teams, like fast and easy provisioning of software and, of course, flexible delivery and consumption. Next to that, some advantages to finance department, like streamlined procurement processes, just buying with a click of a button, and consolidated billing. That is, your third-party software becomes part of your monthly AWS bill, which is useful for some of, at least of our current customers. I believe there's more like these among those who are listening here today. On top of all this, I want to stress one benefit that is important for bigger AWS spenders who have EDP, that is Enterprise Discount Program, agreement signed. Half of what you spend on AWS Marketplace counts towards your EDP commitment. which can be a game changer in some cases, as you need to to cover that commitment that you make to once you sign the EDP. Cloudwiser here plays a role of a specialized reseller with the possibility to provide custom AWS marketplace pricing for larger deals. And what is more important is that we provide no questions asked 5% off discount to all of our AWS resale customers that buy software from our top ISV portfolio that is growing bigger each month. One of the first ones there was LogicMonitor and Kenz, who we got pleasure to meet and discuss. And I clearly see that LogicMonitor is one of the most active vendors on AWS Marketplace and are putting a lot of effort to build their products that are closely integrated with AWS. So our goal today is to introduce the solutions that LogicMonitor has to all of you, a task that Kenz and Chris agreed to take on. And they will be your today's speakers, and my role will be just to support them along the way. So before passing the screen, I want to mention two things regarding the workflow of today's event. So first of all, your questions are very, very welcome, and please submit them in the Q&A section at the bottom or the chat, like whichever works for you. And we'll most probably have time to go over them during the demos or once that is done. And the event is being recorded, so if you miss anything or like you want to look at some details, like don't worry, you'll get the recording most probably tomorrow. We'll share that via email. That's all from my side. Kenz, are you ready to take it over from here?
Sure, Julius, I'll take over.
Good.
Share a screen. Let me know if you can see my screen.
I do.
All good.
Perfect. So again, thank you all for attending the session today. As Julius kindly said, we are on AWS Marketplace, so you can purchase us via the marketplace, which is part of one of the reasons we're strongly partnered with Cloudwiser. The focus of the session today is to cover our cloud monitoring capabilities and also explain our container monitoring capabilities. Just before we go into LogicMonitor's presentation today, I'd like to explain that LogicMonitor is a hybrid infrastructure performance monitoring platform. So we can cover both on-prem and cloud monitoring out of the box. So just to quickly mention who we are, we will be covering who LogicMonitor is, what are the capabilities beyond AWS CloudWatch, and how we can quickly, rapidly deploy container monitoring in your environments. A little bit on who we are. So LogicMonitor has 2,000 customers globally. As you can see, we have a very good Gartner Peer Insight score, 4.9 out of 5, which means that pretty much 90% of our customers has voted 4 or 5 for us to be able to get that score. But that doesn't just cover the number of users we have. So we have 75,000 users using LogicMonitor today. We have large managed service providers who are part of our customers, like NTT, where their customers also use LogicMonitor on a daily basis. And we have 9 global offices where we do follow the sun in terms of support. So all our customers are able to log in and chat to our support team at any point of the day. So you have an issue at 2 a.m., there'll be someone awake and ready to speak to you and support you there. So how are we different from other monitoring tools? First of all, we're SaaS, so we do all the heavy lifting for you. You don't need any infrastructure on-premise to host the data that you're collecting or the monitoring data. We're agentless, which means that you don't have to deploy an agent on every device you want to monitor. We use collector-based technology, which will mean that you can rapidly deploy monitoring in your environments. On average, we see customers see 4-time return on investment in the first year of deploying LogicMonitor. And this return on investment is calculated based on, first, the number of man-hours reduced to maintain the monitoring piece, but second of all, also the reduction in downtime and the number of SLAs that are no longer missed. So we work with enterprise tooling, so all the big enterprise organizations out there, Cisco, Dell, HP, you name it, we work with them. So we have 2,000 data sources out of the box where you have data points already pre-configured. So as soon as the devices are in platform, you are starting to get these data points and alerts preset as well. So really the idea of LogicMonitor is to move from having contextual insight to infrastructure intelligence and moving IT within your organization to have a more prominent position where you're not only supporting the IT team, but supporting the rest of the business as well. So how does LogicMonitor help? We covered a bit of this, but we deploy very fast. We monitor a lot out of the box, and we automate pretty much everything by having integrations with ticketing systems, orchestration tools, as well as the data sources that are pre-configured and already ready for you to use. So to focus on cloud monitoring, obviously this is one of the components that we have. So LogicMonitor is able to provide full visibility into health and performance of your AWS resource and going beyond the capabilities of CloudWatch and what AWS is able to provide today. So we're going to be covering three main elements in this presentation where we can focus on, as well in the demo to show you exactly how we can support you and your environments to ensure that you're getting more metrics and really the full visibility into your environments. So one of the areas that we definitely add on in terms of a value on top of the cloud native monitoring is data retention. So out of the box with LogicMonitor, you can get 1 year or up to 2 years unaggregated data retention. So that includes cloud data. So again, this is really helpful for organizations that have monthly release sales cycles where you need to compare performance metrics of the different releases that you have, or for seasonal businesses like retail. So we have a lot of retail customers, and they're able to use the data to go back a year and compare performance in key periods like Black Friday or Christmas or Chinese New Year and so on. Another area where LogicMonitor provides a little bit more information than what is available in the free tier with AWS monitoring or CloudWatch monitoring is the out-of-the-box capabilities. So we can do memory metrics, for example, on EC2 instances. We can get to the SDK level with monitoring of AWS resources. So again, it's really that additional lever going that extra step, and all these capabilities are available out of the box. And lastly is the dashboarding perspective. So we know that AWS have recently released dashboarding capabilities, and again, great for everyone using CloudWatch, but from what we understand, this requires a lot of configuration. It's very manual to set up, and obviously requires some time to get the right dashboards in place. We have 150 dashboards out of the box that auto-populate as soon as you have the devices brought into the platform. So again, really emphasizing that return on investment and speed of deployment. We also have dashboards that support understanding which cloud resources are underutilized, ensuring that you're not paying for resources in the cloud and kind of paying for resources that you're not using in the cloud. And again, if you still have any on-prem data centers, you're easily able to produce these dashboards where you have the AWS resources metrics alongside your data center infrastructure metrics as well in one single place where you're able to view this information. Moving swiftly on to container monitoring. So again, on the container front, we offer container monitoring out of the box. And the idea with our container monitoring is to provide the health of the underlying container resources and orchestrating components. So again, it's with, as we all know with containers, these are ephemeral environments. And what LogicMonitor is able to do is able to automatically apply monitoring because these constantly changing environments, but also look at the performance of the service and the applications that are running in these containers. So you're able to automatically get this information into your environment, into the LogicMonitor environment, and have these dashboards auto-populated, showing you exactly how these service and applications are running. And again, some of the benefits of our container monitoring is we're agentless. We have automated configuration. We provide full visibility. And obviously from a data storage perspective, we do all the heavy lifting, and we can store data for up to 2 years unaggregated. So here's a list of just some of our customers that are using LogicMonitor today. As you see, we have a wide breadth of customers from financial services down to education, and they're all using the different capabilities within the LogicMonitor platform, covering on-prem, cloud, container, config, and recently released log anomaly detection as well. So here's a quick use case, and obviously this is just one use case that we have where the focus is LM Cloud and LM Container. These are the two entities that we've been talking about in this session, where their essential challenge was understanding the underlying performance and reliability of the applications that are running in their containers, and they were able to use LogicMonitor to understand that. So one of the key business impacts that they saw from using LogicMonitor is the centralized dashboard that saved lots of time from the IT team having to go to multiple tools to create these dashboards and get that information, but also a solution that is able to scale and evolve with their own capabilities and their own devices. So again, LogicMonitor is a very flexible tool. So if we don't have the capability out of the box with the 2,000 plus data sources we have, you can add these data, you can write your own data sources and bring this into the platform, or you can look into our LogicMonitor repository and LM Exchange to pull these to see if any of our customers have already built a data source for the technology you're after to be able to use it. So it is a very flexible and extensible tool. I'll quickly hand over to Chris, that way he can run you through the architecture slide, and then we can jump into the juicy parts of the demo.
Thanks, Kenz. Can you stop sharing? I'll share mine.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Chris. I'm one of the sales engineers here at LogicMonitor. My role primarily is to help support our partners and prospect clients through the pre-sales technical phase. Please feel free to ask me or put your hand up to ask me any questions. Kenz, if you could just monitor the chat for me, that would be great. And we're going to start off by just talking about the architecture and how LogicMonitor fits together. So LogicMonitor itself is a hybrid SaaS-based agentless IT infrastructure monitoring and intelligence tool. Hybrid in the fact that, you know, we can monitor devices wherever they're located, AWS or on-premise, or even in a private data center. Now, we're agentless in the fact that we don't have to put a touch point on devices we wish to monitor. We get a lot of detail back via public cloud, in particular AWS, via API. So for example, CloudWatch, we can leverage the integration we have with CloudWatch to pull back information around AWS services and subscriptions such as EC2, S3 storage buckets. Also, we pull back some billing metrics as well, which has been really popular over the past 12 months or so, where we can actually look at billing associated to cost by operation, cost by service, cost by tag associated to AWS, which has proven really popular in the fact that we can now align public cloud expenditure to actually infrastructure costings. Again, we can pull back PaaS services from AWS, but if we are lifting and shifting our infrastructure into, say, EC2 environments, so for our VMs, as well as pulling metrics back via AWS CloudWatch via the API, there's only a certain amount of API metrics that we can pull back via EC2. What do we need to do if we wanted to pull back full rich level, OS level metrics from those EC2 boxes? Then all we can simply do is we can drop a collector onto one VM. That will then go off and find all my other EC2 VMs and basically enable us to pull back full metrics on those VMs. Now, what is a collector? Excuse me. A collector is a lightweight application that would reside either on a Windows or Linux VM in EC2, for example, where once it's installed, we can then assign what we call authentication credentials to that collector. And what I mean by authentication credentials will be things like WMI, SNMP, SSH. Maybe we were looking for a Veeam backup server that we had in EC2, then we'd need API credentials like Veeam user, Veeam pass. So the idea being is with the collector for devices or device types we wish to monitor, then we would just require these authentication credentials. Now, once the collector has the authentication credentials, we then point the collector at devices, whether they are on-premise or located up in AWS. We will then use those credentials to process what we call data sources. So a data source in LogicMonitor term is pretty much a monitoring template. Now we have probably have over 3,000 data sources out of the box now, ranging from AWS billing, AWS EC2, Windows data sources, as well as looking at other data sources around maybe Docker, Kubernetes, microservices available through here as well. So once the collector is installed, and this can take minutes, and we point it at the relevant devices, we can get device metrics being sent up to LogicMonitor by port 443. This is outbound only, up to LogicMonitor, where we will do all the heavy lifting and the data mining for you. Now, once the data's in, we can then provide you various ways of dicing and slicing that data. So we do have a lot of visuals, so dashboards. Ken's mentioned we have approximately well over 150 dashboards out of the box. That is really powerful because they will be automatically populated with data that is coming in from the devices automatically. The dashboards range from, I think it's probably a dozen or so out the box AWS dashboards. There's half a dozen Kubernetes dashboards out the box, and then there's obviously dashboards around things like network performance, capacity planning. I can also look at dashboards like around my over-provisioned public cloud devices, and we'll take you through those as well. But of course, you can create your own dashboards through the custom dashboard wizard as well. There's also the ability to have alerting directly from the platform. So we can send alerts via SMS messages, voice calls, and or email directly from platform. But we also have an open API. It's a REST-based API that will enable us to integrate to your current technologies that you use, whether it is an ITSM tool. By the way, this is not an exclusive list. This is just a sample list of our integration. So ITSM tools, so the likes of ServiceNow, Jira, BMC, Salesforce, Autotask, ConnectWise. We have integrations into these ticketing platforms, and the majority of our integrations are bi-directional as well. So if we're creating a ticket or an incident in a ITSM tool, and we're working that incident in the ITSM tool, we make an update, that update can be reflected back into LogicMonitor as well. What we've found really popular over the last crazy 12 months is a lot more teams using chat channels for business communication. And we can now also create alerts into chat channels as well. And they can also be acknowledged in here as well as through there. Just on the integrations that we do have integrations with remediation tools with the likes of Ansible, Puppet, and Terraform. So if an infrastructure alert is kicked off, in theory, we could allow that to process a playbook that we've defined, maybe in Ansible as well, to try and remediate or fix the issue that has occurred. Just a couple more things I want to talk about within the platform architecture. One of the differences between a lot of monitoring tools and LogicMonitor is the fact that we are very proactive. Okay, traditionally monitoring tools have been reactive, so we have now included a lot more AI ops functionality. A year last January, so January 2020, we acquired a company called Anomalies, a Swedish-based logs analytic vendor. And we have now incorporated their technology into LogicMonitor. And the reason this is important is the fact that if I'm monitoring infrastructure and we get an infrastructure alert, and we're also monitoring the log on that device, whether that's a VM in EC2 or a network device we have, if we see any log anomalies at or around the time of the infrastructure alert, those log anomalies will be attached to the alert. The benefit for our clients or our customers is the fact that you will have quicker mean time to resolution, and also the root cause analysis will be sped up because you guys don't have to trawl through potentially thousands upon thousands of lines in a log file to actually get to the cause. We also have forecasting or capacity planning, trend analysis. I think as Ken's mentioned, we hold data in platform for up to 2 years, and that is what we call raw data. So that's non-aggregated. So a lot of our competitors aggregate that data over time for them to save on storage costs and that kind of stuff. So that's really powerful, enables you to be more accurate when it comes to looking ahead over the next 3, 6, 12 months around volume utilization on my S3 buckets or that kind of thing. We also have this AI ops piece. This is where we can understand what we call the normal behavior on a device or an instance. So this is powerful in the fact that I can look at, say, an EC2 VM and work out the average CPU or the memory utilization, and we put that into what we call the expected range. Okay, anything that deviates above or below the expected range, we would then alert you to that, and we'll dive into that in a little bit more detail when we go through. So just to recap, LogicMonitor is a hybrid, agentless, SaaS-based IT infrastructure monitoring and intelligence tool. So let me dive into my platform. That's really what question I'd like to use. Okay. Now, what we can see here, this is BC Systems. This is my enterprise company. They have a true hybrid environment where they have the ability to have multiple sites, locations throughout the world, and also a whole mixture of devices. They have Kubernetes in Azure. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget to have Kubernetes in AWS and Azure, so we chose Azure, but it's the same process. We're going to spend a lot of time going through AWS, obviously, and show you some of the cool stuff that we can do in there. Now, one thing I just want to show you, if we start off under the settings, under users, we have what we call user and roles. So we have roles-based access control, which pretty much defines where my users can go and what they can do in the platform. So my cloud team, in theory, would just be responsible for cloud devices or instances, and say my storage team would just look after the storage devices as well. So they can be really granular. They can define what we can do and where we can go within the platform. As I mentioned, we have the collectors. We can install collectors anywhere, whether it's in AWS, whether it's on a Kubernetes cluster, or whether it's on a data center that we have as well. Like I mentioned, the most important thing is getting the authentication credentials aligned to the collectors. Once we have that in place, we will then do a net scan that will enable us to find devices, and then we will use those authentication credentials to automatically start applying these data sources, or logic modules as we call them. You know, if we have, for example, Bupa ANZ recently deployed to 500 devices, and they were monitored in platform in under 30 minutes. So from getting a collector installed to getting devices into the platform really takes hours rather than days or weeks if it was an agent-based technology that we were trying to roll out for our monitoring. The data sources, as we mentioned, we have well over 3,000 of these. These are some of the ones that we have for AWS. So let's go and have a look at, say, EC2. This is showing me how we're getting this. So we're getting a lot of this data via CloudWatch. It's telling me how often we collect the data. You can change these polling frequencies if you want to, but if I just scroll down, you can see here we have 11 data points. Okay, so we mentioned we've got 3,000 plus data sources, but in theory, we have 250,000 plus data points out of the box. Now, what will happen is the collector will cycle through all data sources, all logic modules, and automatically apply the relevant data sources based upon what they find. Okay, again, this is looking at S3. Again, you can see some information that we have. Then again, if I had Kubernetes in here, again, I can look at, say, my cluster aggregate. Again, it's showing me how often we're collecting this data. And again, you can see all the data points that we capture through here. So the idea with LogicMonitor is really to help, as soon as we get the collector installed, get the credentials, show it to devices, we'll automatically apply all the relevant data sources. And then what will happen is all the dashboards will start to populate. Okay, now what we can see in my demo environment, this is all out of the box. There's nothing custom here that I've done. So let's just dive straight in. Let's go and have a look through some of our AWS dashboards. So my AWS overview, again, this is quite nice. This is showing me all of my alert status. So this is showing me all of my services and subscriptions. By the way, being a demo environment, everything in my world is always pretty good. So everything green is healthy and no issues at the moment. Where we have yellows, these are basically warnings, so more of an informative alert. If I had any anything red would be defined as critical, anything orange would be defined as an error, which basically could mean it could go to critical at some point. We can drill down onto these. Okay, so if I open up my EC2 in another link, this is now showing me all of my EC2 devices. Okay, and these are all of my boxes that I'm monitoring here. Again, I can expand these out. Okay, and you can see this one. We'll talk about the difference in a second, actually. Let me see if I've got another one in here. Just bear with me, my apologies. I just want to see, no, we don't. Okay, so what we're seeing here, this is down on the resource level. We'll come back to this in a second. Let me go back onto the dashboards. Let me go down to my EC2 devices, or up to my EC2 devices. So in here, I currently have 6 instances running. It would also tell me if I've had any stopped or terminated services. And what we can see here, these are my EC2 devices. Okay. All these metrics are coming back from the API. Okay. Now, again, you can see here CPU utilization. If I just drop this down, if I go to configure, what we can do is I can create some thresholds. Okay, so I might want to be notified when that goes into, well, we got 20%. Let me just put that to 20. Save that, save and close that. Oh, that's just typical, isn't it? It's changed when I put 20. It's the utilization of that CP's dropped. So what I was hoping was, because it was over 20 at that current time, it would now be displayed in yellow. So we can have these dynamic thresholds to display visually if there's issues potentially. So if it maybe went up to 95% CPU utilization, it'd be red. If it was 90%, it would be orange. If it was 80%, it'd be yellow. Okay, but what I was trying to say here is the fact that these metrics are what we're pulling back from the API. Okay, what would happen, or what do I need to do if I need to pull more metrics from these EC2 devices? As I mentioned earlier, we can simply just drop a collector onto one of these boxes, and that will enable us to get more OS level metrics. And if I just dive back to this piece we had before, where we have the resources, and if I just choose anyone, you can see now this one has more metrics. Okay, so I can see IP, I can see ports, I can see network interfaces, I can look at the file system statuses, usages through here, and these metrics are coming back from the collector. Okay, if we didn't have the collector up there, we would just be bound to the metrics that have been pulled off from the API detail. So just bear that in mind. If customers, if you're comfortable with just these metrics, then that's perfectly fine. This is what we call an LM Cloud license. If you want full metrics, we just install a collector onto an EC2 device to get OS level rich metrics through for you. I mentioned earlier that we can pull back billing information. So this is now looking at my AWS billing. This is looking at cost by operation, cost by region, cost by service, cost by tag. And you can see here, I put some thresholds visually to let me know if we're getting high costs associated to that. Again, you can see here, I've got days until alert. Again, if I just change that for us whilst we're here, cost per month, I want that to be shown in red when it gets to, what are we in here? So 250. save that in, save and close that. Okay, so it's now showing me visually that I've reached the limit. So you can have some cost ceilings in place to let you know if we are exceeding expenditure for a service, for a tag, for an operation in here as well. Plus what you might also want to do is I might go and have a look at a forecast. So I can now go and forecast what's been happening over the last 6 months. Okay, I can go and base that over the last 6 months worth of cost by service within AWS. How are we tracking? Okay, and you can see we're starting to go up, but obviously this may change if it changes on a per month basis. So it's really powerful. It enables us to associate billing infrastructure detail to the IT services that we're applying out to the business. Some other ones that we have within here, I can look at my S3 buckets. Okay, and I can look at bucket size, trending. Again, I have the ability to do some forecasting on my buckets as well. And we can see if they have any alerts. And at the moment, you can also see that my simple storage service alert is all green, and that's all good as well. As you can see, we have this detail. If I go down to resources, like I showed you before, and if I just go back to home, if I show you my AWS, what we're seeing on this screen is where we have the little arrows. These are indicating that I have services and subscriptions to these. Now, how are we getting this data back? So if I just go to info, this one's showing you where my data is residing, okay, in which zone, which region, etc. How do we actually pull the information back from AWS? Then this is what we're doing. So we have we need the ARN, we need the AWS account ID, and an external ID. That will then pull back all the services that we have. Okay, if I go to EC2, I can then go, yeah, we're going to drop a collector. So enable monitoring Firewall collector. So I simply just drop one collector onto one device in EC2, and then the collector will then be able to monitor all my other EC2 VMs and pull back those metrics. Okay, really powerful, really straightforward. Again, I can now come down into here. I can look at the resource metrics that we're putting through via these particular AWS instances. If I just jump back onto the dashboard piece, and if I just open up my Kubernetes, if I go down to my cluster overview, okay, so this is showing me, okay, we've got a critical alert by the looks of things on a proxy on a particular device that's been triggered. I can have a look at my cluster CPU, how many we have. I can also look at requests and limits. Okay, I can also look at my cluster memory. I can look at the amount of pods we have. I can look at my nodes, and again, I can drill down onto these if need be. Okay, now I'm down on the actual individual node itself. And again, you can have a look at my Kubernetes uptimes that we have on here, the node itself, pool limits, CPU requests, memory requests, disk space availability, and obviously node status through here. So we're getting a lot of metrics. Simply what we've done is we've dropped a collector onto my Kubernetes container, and this is pretty much now putting back this detail. Again, if I scroll down, we can have a look at all of my individual pods. Okay, and again, I can see we've got a warning on this pod. Again, if I drill down onto that, will now take me through to the pod itself. And if I click on the alerts, it's now showing me the alert associated to that particular pod. Okay, also, if I click on maps, you can see that we've understood the mapping associated to that particular pod, what it's connected to, and its agent pool as well. Again, if I just scroll down, we can look at my network activity. Now, this is quite useful. So again, if I expand this out, this is looking at a custom time period. If I go to show me last 7 days worth of pod activity, okay, you can see we've got one hell of a spike here for some reason. What happened here? I can zoom in on this. Okay, if I press this icon, it's going to apply this time range. So what's that? 6 hours, just over 6 hours time range. Again, if I wanted to, I could zoom in a little bit more, narrow that time range. Okay, so we've got that issue. That is for 45-minute time window. I can apply this to everything else. I can look at the raw data and I can find out what happened. Okay, so that particular proxy, 36.38, 39 million bits per second. Okay, if I just close out of here. Now, what we can also do is on all the other graphs, we can see that we've set that time for the same time zone. Okay, when it's at this. So getting to understand what was the cause of the issue is really powerful through here as well. Let me just set that back to the default. Other things you can see it again, I can go down to my pods. Again, we're getting right into the weeds now. We can see a lot of more detail around my pod performance, for example. I can look at my CPU times. Again, if I want to, I can look at anomaly detection. Okay, it looks everything's good at the moment. Well, let's see if I can get a bit more data on this one. Okay, this one will do. As you can see, this is looking at the CPU time on this particular pod. Okay, in this particular pod, where we have the blue shaded area, that is what we call the expected range. And what we can see where we have the red, these are what we call the anomalies, and these are the things that we're going to alert you to. Again, I compare that with previous week, and I can also compare that with the previous month. Okay, I'm surprised those spikes haven't gone into the expected range. Maybe if it happens again, they will do. But this can happen for pretty much any metric that we're pulling back. We can work out what we call the expected range or the expected behavior. So this is really going to help with stopping alert storms and obviously what we call alert fatigue, because the alerts now coming from LogicMonitor are going to be more meaningful for you to view and that kind of thing. Some of the other dashboards that I just wanted to show you through here is if we're looking at other items, so we can look at capacity management. So I mentioned like underutilized resources, public cloud. So if we do move everything, we go through a digital transformation and suddenly, excuse me, and we suddenly see that we are seeing potentially more public cloud billing going up every month, then what we could potentially do on here is this is showing me my over-provisioned Windows and over-provisioned Linux devices. And I can go, okay, you know what? Excuse me. I could potentially close down these 6 devices because they're not using much CPU. There's not much storage being used. And we can spin these down to save on a little bit more money for us each month kind of thing. And again, we can do that for our Linux devices as well. Just moving back down onto some of the other infrastructure items, you see here we can look at certain applications as well, whether it's Office 365, whether it's Citrix, whether it's Apache, whether it's Docker as well for microservices, we can pull those back through here as well. There's also the ability to look at database management, network performance. Okay, so I can look at my network performance across different devices. So this is more infrastructure. This could be stuff that is sat outside of AWS. So this could be our routers, our switches, our firewalls. But the benefit of taking everything into LogicMonitor, because we're hybrid, we can monitor cloud devices, we can monitor microservices, we can also monitor network infrastructure, physical hardware, that kind of thing. Again, this is showing me all of my devices. If I just click on this particular Cisco device we have, I just want to show you some of the things we can do from a network level. Again, I can look at all of the individual metrics, so interfaces, but we also have this iOS config. So we also have the ability to pull back running configurations on certain device types, predominantly network devices, so switches, routers, firewalls. I can look at the running config and compare that with a previous version. And as we can hold data in platform for up to 2 years, we also have the ability to hold 2 years worth of config data as well if needed. Now, just moving down, what we can also see through here is I can also go and look at what we call services. Okay. If I go to my Kubernetes guestbook, so what we do, so what is a service insight or what is a service monitoring within LogicMonitor? This is where we can group together multiple resources, devices, instances, whether they are based up in AWS, whether they are physical devices or VMs that I have internally. We can define the relationships between all of my different instances. So this case is looking at my Kubernetes guestbook. And what we can do through here is we can define individual metrics that I want to pull from those devices. Okay, so the idea being is I would go through all of the devices that we've defined to make up this service. I will then go and put off individual metrics from those devices. That will basically mean that we can create this green box with the white tick. So this is all my users are interested in, is this green box with the white tick. I have defined this as the service. I will then map that service out. And again, we have APIs. So if you have some, for example, ServiceNow CMDB with workflows in, we can map these back into our what we call services through here. I've picked off the metrics from each individual component. I can view those metrics here. So container CPU, container health, etc. But these are what I need to monitor to manage this service delivery back to the business. Okay. The idea being is this green box with the white tick is what we want. Just to show you an example. So this is another one that we have for web service. This one is just looking after these 9 devices. So I pick metrics off a web server, a file server, domain controller. But we can see again, the service is currently green, which is good. Again, traffic light scenario. If it was down, it would be in a red state. But you can see down here, I do have 3 alerts, but these alerts aren't impacting on the service delivery. Okay. Now, if I just click onto alerts, I've already got one open for us to look at. You're probably thinking, Chris, where have you gone? I've not gone into a different product. This is UI version 4. This is the new skin that we're putting out, because this is the old version, UI version 3. We're just updating the UI skin for my alerts, and I just wanted to show you this particular alert detail here. Let me just expand this one out for us. So this is an alert that has been triggered. This is just monitoring a piece of infrastructure that could be an EC2, it could be on-premise in a data center, wherever it is. It's telling me that my Tomcat server has returned a value of 3. It's a 400 range, so it's probably a 404 error. What it's done here, it's shown me the detail. It's shown me at the time of the alert, which is the time of the alert. This is the infrastructure alert here. Because we're monitoring the syslog, it's also said, actually, you know what? Just before the infrastructure alert, we did see 1 log anomaly, and we've now attached that into the alert detail. So when your guys or your team get fired alert either via SMS or it gets created from an alert into a ticket into your ITSM tool, we can also, and if we're monitoring the log, of course, we can also put the log anomaly associated to that infrastructure alert within there as well. And that's really powerful. That's really what I spoke about earlier, in the fact that we can look at the logs and compare that to any infrastructural as well. So that's going to save on root cause analysis, and obviously your mean time to resolution times will be reduced as well. And then a couple more things from me. We do have the ability to do website monitoring or checking. So this is where we can pretty much do 2 ways to check web checks, or we can either do that via internal method. So this would be using one of the collectors to do an internal check to a website or a ping check to get response times. For example, if I'm doing it from a collector, it might be how quick is it to get to Zoom, for example. Okay, and if I come onto graphs, this is my response times to get to Zoom. These are my collectors, how quickly they get it. If we have a workforce that are working a lot more remotely these days due to the current global pandemic, then maybe we want to check how quickly they can get to Office 365 or GCP or AWS. And these are coming from 5 LogicMonitor servers or sites globally. And again, I'm looking at the global response time through here. But more importantly, we can look at the raw data. I can also go and have a look at the steps. So what I'm saying here is, as well as just seeing if that website is available, we also have the ability to do some synthetic transactions. So it might be, okay, what do we want to do? Yes, let's request something. Can we get, do we need to authenticate? Okay, once we've done that, do we need to wait for response? Okay, what kind of response are we waiting for? And then we can put in what we need to get back from that. Okay. And again, based upon the response, that in theory could kick off another step for us. And then finally, for me, we do have what we call the reports. We have what we call these static reports or point in time reports. This is a really useful report that we have. So this is looking at, looking at data points that are likely to go into an alert status in the next 30 days. I can look at alert trends. We can also have a look at things like interface bandwidth if we're monitoring network devices. There's also SLA reports available and also website overview. Okay, so we can understand response times over X period of time through there. So just to recap, LogicMonitor is a SaaS-based, agentless IT infrastructure monitoring and intelligence tool. We have a really good integration with AWS. We can get a lot of the metrics back via the API. But like I said, if you want to get more OS level metrics on EC2 devices, for example, we simply drop a collector up there, and then we can start getting full OS level, rich level metrics pulled back into LogicMonitor.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I see no questions yet. Is that it from your side, Kenz, Chris, or do you have like a few more slides while we're waiting for the questions coming up?
That's it, I believe, on our end, unless, Chris, you wanted to show something additional in the platform. But I think we've covered everything from cloud monitoring as well as containers, as well as so much more. Thank you, Chris, for that.
Yeah, Chris, it was impressive to see, how much you can do with LogicMonitor on that side. Then while we're waiting for the questions, like I have a few from my side. I know that you covered CloudWatch at the very beginning, and the differences, but still, like at least from our customer base and what we see in the Baltics, like it's definitely the most widely used monitoring tool for AWS environment, which is natural, it's AWS native and everything. So like once again, just to stress, what are the main differences, and in what scenarios or situations do you see that it makes sense stepping forward from towards like an advanced tool like LogicMonitor?
Good question. So really, when it comes down to CloudWatch, it's always down to what is available that is published via AWS CloudWatch to what we can actually digest. A lot more. It really comes into the fact that if customers are using EC2, in all honesty, they're probably going to require a collector up there in EC2 so we can get those full rich metrics back. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but the API data that we get from EC2 isn't extensive enough really for this day, where users would like to monitor the services that are running on either Linux or Windows EC2 devices. So that's why we have to install the collector onto an EC2 box that will enable us to really get those full level, rich OS level metrics that customers require in today's world.
I see we got a question from Martin. It says anything on logs, Anomalies, anything to cover on that side, Kenz, Chris?
So yes. Let me just share my screen again. So what I did show, it's a very high level introduction to logs. I just wanted to show you how we can get the log data into an alert through here. Where's it gone? This, apologies, where'd that alert go? Here we go. So what I can do is, you can see here we got this, this is the log that we're monitoring. If I go down to view logs, okay, I can now see the raw log on this particular device. Okay, we hold data in platform. We can hold the log data. We actually hold the data in AWS, to be fair, for up to 30 days. People say 30 days isn't a long time, but we do have the ability to extend that if we need to. So this is looking at the raw log. As you can see, the raw log here, I can look at different devices or different groups of devices that we have. So let me see if I can pull back that one. Okay, so this is now showing me a log that we have in AWS. This is obviously some sort of Windows device that I have in EC2. You have the ability to look at keyword searches. I know, hopefully it's going to pick someone up. Typical. Let me just type in. Okay, this is just typical of me. Let me type in WMI. That's always going to pull back something. Okay, so again, we can do keyword searches in the log. Okay, again, we can put it in a specific time frame. We can have a look at my monthly usage stats. If I go onto a device itself, so if I go down to resources, if I type in the device AWS DC, DC2, that's the difference. You can see that one's got a cloud. That means that we're not having, we're not getting full metrics from that. That's just CloudWatch API metrics will be coming through. Where we have like the stack, that means we have an AWS device that is being monitored via the collector. If I double click onto there, okay, you can now see we've got Windows events, LM logs. Okay, and these are the logs that we're doing with the monitoring. You can define whether they're application logs as well. We're looking at the system logs, the server log through here. I can look at the graphs that are coming through, how many events that I'm doing. Again, you have the ability to look at forecasting, anomaly detection, or I can go and have a look at the events directly from the device that we can get to through here as well. So the log piece is very powerful. At the moment, like this is our first integration, not integration, it's our first integration directly into LogicMonitor. We've actually just released another update where we can actually now create alerts from log events as well. In the first release, we only alerted from the infrastructure alert whilst looking at the syslog or the log, but now we can actually create alerts from actually the logs themselves, which is really, really powerful as well. Any other questions?
None from the audience, I guess. I have one more that I wrote down for myself while listening to the presentation. From your experience, there's still, I saw that there's like a big customer base and like basically have customers from all the industries, but is there like something that some industries or some type of companies or like stage of those companies development, like where you see like this like a perfect fit for LogicMonitor, like just like a perfect use case? So are there any like these from your own experience with LogicMonitor?
Well, both Kenz and I can answer that. So from my perspective, it's really anybody who are going through the digital transformation journey. So who have already started on that journey. So they may have dipped their toe in cloud services, and they're probably more than likely to move from IaaS onto AWS. But we're seeing a lot more PaaS services coming through from clients who have a more mature cloud view, such as taking on, say, microservices and Kubernetes. So an ideal customer or potential client of LogicMonitor will be someone who is in a hybrid mode. Okay, so that really differentiates us from our competitors, the fact that that you have public cloud, you also have on-premise infrastructure. We are probably the #1 who can manage both from a single pane of glass. So we do have competitors who specialize in cloud. We have competitors who specialize in on-premise. Not a lot of them have the great flexibility that we do with having a true hybrid model. So any customer with a hybrid environment starting down the path of digital transformation is definitely our sweet spot. Ken, is there anything to add?
Completely agree with you, Chris, there. So on our end, as Chris said, it's mostly customers who are already transitioning into that cloud, already, are almost fully in the cloud, but still have some on-prem environments that they may not be able to get rid of and move to the cloud. So again, having that hybrid capability of having full visibility of your on-prem and cloud environments. So no matter where you are in your journey, we can still help you.
Great. Thanks a lot for that. And if there's no more questions from the audience, then I would like to wrap it up with a survey. Just like a very quick 3-question, like 1 question poll on how useful was this webinar for you. So I would really appreciate your answers and votes, just for us to understand was it of value to you. And while everyone is submitting the answers, I would like to once again encourage everyone to join the AWS community channel on Slack that I shared the link to. And also the next event we'll be having will be 2 weeks from now, and it will be an intro to AWS type of workshop. So if it's relative to you, or like anybody in your team that just starting out with AWS or needs to know it a bit better to be able to maybe communicate with you like in a more efficient way. So please register. I'll also share the link in the chat, and you should see the results, which I think everybody is said that's great or more or less useful. So I think this was very good that we did this, and actually, at least for me personally, like going deeper into that advanced side of monitoring and AWS, this is something new, and I guess I'll discuss that with our technical team as well, because as far as I understand, a lot of MSPs are using LogicMonitor as well, as Ken told me. So Kenz, Chris, anything to add from your side at the end?
Not on our end. Thank you so much for hosting, Julius. Again, if anyone has any additional questions that come up following this session, please feel free to direct them to Julius or myself, and we'll get back to you. I'm hoping that what you saw today was exciting enough to prompt you to move forward with evaluating LogicMonitor, potentially looking at us from a monitoring standpoint. Great.
Thank you very much. And looks like that's a wrap of today's event. We saved like 27 minutes of your time. So please go have a walk and spend some time outside after those long calls and staying at the screen all day. And thank you everyone for attending. And we're looking forward to meeting you in the other Cloudwiser events. So until next time, bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.